When and how will you find a great financial advisor to suit your needs? I'm Mariann Montagne with Thriving with Your Money Tree, and today my guest is a financial advisor who will discuss the whys and the whens and the hows of choosing a financial advisor. This is not any advisor, but a trusted working associate of mine when we were both at Gradient Financial for many years. This is not any advisor, but a trusted working associate of mine when we were both at Gradient Financial for many years. And she advised hundreds of financial advisors, maybe thousands, on, she's nodding yes, on investment offerings and practice management. She and her husband have over 20 years' experience in the financial services industry, and together they lead the team at Paladin Wealth LLC. Allow me to present to you Nikki Foley.
Well, thank you for a nice, warm welcome there, Mariann. I appreciate it. I have to say, today is a great day for me. I have this really warm spot in my heart for Mariann. So I probably have had Mariann on a pedestal for quite a few years here. She has this ability to seamlessly transition from her role as a professional, as a CFA, as an industry knowledge leader. She appears on Bloomberg and CNBC, yet she is this wonderful, down-to-earth gal next door who has shown again and again how well she does relating with retirees and pre-retirees, and that's our clientele. And so for me, today is a really special day that I get to do this with you as you have embarked on a whole new adventure with your podcast here.
Well, thank you, but I'd like you to go ahead and introduce Paladin to our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So Paladin Financial, Jeff is my husband, and we own it. We are an independent, fee-based, registered investment advisor, and I know that gets fairly technical, but it basically means that we are registered at the federal level with the SEC. Jeff is also a certified financial planner, or a CFP is more common, what you might hear out there, and that's short. CFP is short for again, certified financial planner, and this is an advisor who has done a lot of certification and rigorous testing, much like you have done, Mariann, in your world as a CFA, and he is focused on the financial planning knowledge that goes into that, and we'll talk a little bit more about what falls into that at a later point here in our conversation, I think. But one of the key things that I think is important of a CFP is they're a fiduciary, and that's kind of a legal jargon that you might know out there, and it's an ethical standard. But in short terms, it means that Jeff is bound to always deliver advice in the best interest of the client. So at a high level, we focus pretty much on a fee-based firm. And serving pre-retirees and retirees is where we've started. We have 7 employees now, so we're based in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, and everybody on our team is licensed in some capacity. So what has happened as we've brought on additional staff, we're serving a larger population. So it's not necessarily pre-retirees and retirees these days. We are helping people right out of the get-goes in their career. It really could be anybody that we're serving now. And so we're having some fun with serving a broader audience.
That's awesome.
Yeah. One other things, I don't know, Mariann, that we've caught up. We are now in Kansas as well. So that has been an exciting addition for us. So Jeff and I are homegrown Kansas kids, and our goal was to figure out how we could have a presence there. I have family there. My dad's there. His brother is there. And so if we can have a connection back in Kansas, it allows us to be home and with some of the people that we love and be able to still serve that community with what we do as well.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, it should be a fun one for us. We're just embarking on this. It just happened a couple months ago, so it's fresh, but something we're excited about. Mariann, I'm going to tell you a story, and not all of my explanations will be this long, but there's something that people often ask why I do what I do or why we do what we do. And you had mentioned how we got to know each other previously was through Gradient Financial Group. I served there for close to 20 years. And so making a change in my life, that was a big deal for me. It took me almost 6 months to make that decision. And so I've gotten the question quite a bit of, why do I do what I do? Why did you make the change, and so forth? And for me, it comes back to people, which probably wouldn't surprise those that know me. but it's about being able to use our gifts to serve others. And what I mean by that, there's a fairly emotional piece that goes along with this, and I'll tell this, and hopefully I don't get jumbled up here. There was a period in my life that it was about a 12-month period, and there was a lot of transition that was taking place. There was a lot of joy, but there was some heartache that was going on. I had a newborn. My mom passed away. My grandpa passed away 3 months later. I had a 4-year-old who we sometimes nickname him the Tasmanian Devil. Doesn't get more energetic than at that time he was 4. He broke his leg.
Fornado, I've heard.
There you go. Yeah. That's a fantastic way to look at it. He broke his leg. He had started a new school. What else was going on? Oh, I had a new boss. I had worked with Tammy Lucius is a name I don't mind sharing. I had reported to her for 15 years, so that was very normal. And the business of Gradient Financial Group was going through growth, and so I was reporting to a new person. And all of these things were happening at once. I was a board member, and it was going through a huge transition, the board was, and we were getting new licensure and new grants, and all of this was packed into a 12-month period.
Wow. That's a lot.
It was a lot. And didn't mention Jeff's business, or our business at the time, was 2 years old, and he was running probably 50 to 60 evening seminars a year, which had him gone till 8 or 8:30 at night. And so here we were. In comes somebody in my life that both you and I know. Her name is Courtney, and I didn't know if I was coming or going at that point in my life. Yeah. And, transition can trigger a lot of things, and you can be super happy because all the joy that's going on, and yet all of a sudden you can have this flood of other things. She came into my life professionally, and she lightened my load is probably the best way to say it. She was somebody that looked at my calendar and told me where I needed to be and when I needed to be there, who I should be talking to, what my deadlines were. She just came in, and there's no better way to say it than she gave me my life back. I was able to find happiness. I was able to just navigate again I said, it was messy. Our life was so messy. And I tell you this story because I hopefully others probably have gone through transition in their life as well. And as I talked about before, our population is pre-retirees and retirees. Well, retirement is a huge transition for people.
Challenge and opportunity.
That's exactly right. All the wonderful things and all the happy things that go along with it, but yet sometimes it can be crazy, and there can be emotions that go along with it. And then oftentimes, you think about that age and what else is happening. Kids might be getting married. You might be inviting, new son and daughter-in-laws into your life. You may be having a situation where elderly parents, you're taking care of them or moving them into new care. And so life, although great, can be crazy. And the way that I look at what we can do is I want people to be happy, and I want them to be able to lighten the load from a financial perspective and turn it over to a professional or an expert or somebody where they don't really have to think about it. All they have to do is take care of the things that are right in front of them and be able to focus on all the places they want to be and all the good that they can do, because you only get to go through this retirement once. Right. And so if we can be that person and use our gifts to serve our population and our community, what a great thing. And that's what it comes down to. There's a very emotional piece of it for me.
Right. So you're instructing people, you're helping them get their arms and their head around the changes that are occurring, and really establishing a relationship that should last for years and years to come.
Yeah, and I think there's so much to be said for knowing that what those years and years to come can look like. You can put that, you can have a plan, and then all you have to do is, it's kind of that, I was going to say this later in our conversation, but I'll use it now because it's appropriate. My favorite quote, and I can repeat it over and over, is from Stephen Covey. I'm a Franklin Covey person.
I know you are.
So this one has been with me for a long time, but began with the end in mind. And I think that's one of the things that when you're working with an advisor and a financial professional, you have the ability to say, this is what I want it to look like when it's all said and done. This is what I want my bumper sticker or my obituary to say. This is how I want my kids to feel. Now, how do we get there?
Right.
And you work backwards. And that's hard to do on your own sometimes, and it's nice to have a professional with you to do that.
Well, because people have expertise in other industries. They've been spending their life as an educator or operating a plant or just doing things that require expertise, but not financial investments expertise.
Absolutely. So my answer there was long-winded. Not all of them will be that way, but it hopefully gives our listeners and our viewers an idea of what you can hopefully receive when you're looking for a financial advisor or having a professional in your life.
So beginning with the end in mind. Well, like many others, my parents didn't have a financial advisor earlier in their lives, so they didn't have one to pass on to the rest of the family. So I'm going to start with the basics. Nikki, at what point can I initiate a meeting with a financial planner? I know most people start at retirement, but what's the earliest I could start?
This is another one that's fun for me because I have a few stories to go with it. So my answer is start now. So whatever age our listeners are, start now. And I say that because, engaging a financial planner, the purpose is really twofold. You're hoping to have a roadmap, kind of like we talked about, and the key piece of that is often investing, right? And so if you invest young, there's some really key things that are going to happen for you. You're going to create habits, and those habits, if you start younger, again, greater chance of you having good habits that compound. And I say that in a way, in twofold, compound and build up, but compounding interest is a concept. And I don't know, Mariann, if you want to go through that, or I'm happy to go through that if our listeners aren't familiar with that. But it's basically when an investment grows and is reinvested over and over and over, you're building and earning more on the interest over time.
Right.
You may want to clarify it better than that.
No, I think it's pretty simple that anyone who's had a savings account would say they started with $100 and they earned 5% each year. And so at the end of the first year, they've earned $5, $105. The following year, they're earning 5% on 105, so they make more than that $5 the second year, and it goes on and on. So that's the story of compounding. But here's what I've learned, and this is through a Vanguard study, that hiring an advisor could increase your returns by $1.7 million, assuming 5% annualized growth if you started with a $500,000 portfolio. So I don't know if you have $500,000 today or you're planning to receive that when someone passes away. But over time, with an advisor, you would earn, and this is over 25 years, so starting early is the key here, but you could earn with an advisor $3.4 million rather than, on average, with no advisor, $1.7 million. So it's doubling your money over 25 years. This is a very important thing to keep in mind.
I'm going to add to this from just going through all of the meetings that we do with our pre-retirees and retirees. I don't have statistics behind this. It's just, from the experience side. I have found that those that start younger have a greater tolerance for risk. And I think this could be twofold. One, they have experienced the ups and downs of the market, and so they're more comfortable with this volatility because they recognize the trajectory generally is up. And I think you could probably say this better, but what is it, 10% on average is what the S&P as the market.
Yeah, close to 10% over time, annualized.
And so they're used to that feeling that goes along with it and recognizing where they might land. The other thing that I have found is when they have been investing longer, oftentimes that nest egg is bigger. And so they are willing to take a portion of that and be a little bit more risky with it. So they have their portion where they want to make sure that there is safety and security related to their risk tolerance, but there's a portion that they can have some more risk affiliated with that, and thus potentially greater returns.
Well, it's probably educated risk, and that is what the financial advisor can offer is education so that you as an individual know where to take on risk and where not to take on risk.
I think you make a good point there is all of this is personalized, and that's, uncovered during the strategy sessions and the time that we as an advisor would spend with a client and a prospective client. So personalized is the key to this, and it all is based off of somebody's risk tolerance and their preferences.
Yep. So let's go into risk tolerance for a moment because I don't know how many people understand that you can't take other people's recommendations if it causes the person, you, to lose sleep at night. You have to have a certain understanding of what's right for you. To thine own self be true, I've said in the past. So did William Shakespeare way back in the day. And that is understand your own personal preferences and how much risk you're willing to take. But we're going to move on to screening for an advisor. So, Nikki, how do you screen for an advisor? Do you use a friend's recommendation, or do you look to public sources? Or, are you just looking in, the Google machine, as it were, to find somebody close by? How would you screen?
Such a good question. I'm hoping that we can put up a slide or have something in the show notes that I have a chart that goes along with this. And so what some of this might feel a little technical, there's also some practical side to this as well. So the first piece is any financial professional that you're going to work with has to have licensure. And it just depends on what licensure they hold and what they can do. And so I'm going to break this down into three basic categories. The first category that you would to look at would be there's an insurance agent. The next category would be a registered representative, and a term that's maybe a little bit more common is broker.
Absolutely.
And then the third one that I feel like is has really in the last 10 to 15 years that has become a little bit more common as well is an investment advisor representative. And within each of these categories, they dictate a couple pieces. One, what products can that individual sell or offer to the end consumer? The other piece is how they get paid, which I think is an important piece because that oftentimes tells us how they are motivated and what their incentive is. And then the third piece is, and this goes back to what I just said, is what's motivating them? Whose behalf are they working on? And then another key piece of this is how can I go in and check all these people out and know where to look up somebody to see if they're a real person and do they have anything in their background that I should know about as an end consumer? And so the first two categories, again, was insurance agent and registered representative or a broker. Both of those pieces are paid on a commission basis. And so they're representing either an insurance company or a broker-dealer, and they're held to a suitability standard. This is getting pretty technical. Mm-hmm. Let me just move over to the third category for a second. They are paid on, this is again the investment advisor representative, they are paid on a flat fee, and they are held to a fiduciary standard. And if we rewind back to earlier in the show, we talked about that fiduciary standard. Somebody else or another profession that is held to a fiduciary standard would be like an attorney or a CPA, to give you an example. And again, they have to work on the client's behalf and they have to work in their best interest. So, again, technical, but nonetheless, I think it's important to know a few of those pieces.
Super important. Fiduciary is going to come up many times in this podcast.
Exactly. So, if you want to find out more about somebody that you're exploring or, the person in front of you, the financial professional, an insurance agent is governed by the state. So usually you would just go to the state's website to look up information on them, or you could potentially, call. A registered representative is governed by FINRA or ultimately the SEC, but there's something called broker check, and FINRA is FINRA. So brokercheck.finra.org is where you might go to look up somebody from that side. And then investment advisor representatives are governed by the state and the SEC, and you would go to advisorinfo.sec.gov. Very technical. We'll get this in the show notes. We'll put a slide up so that it helps our listeners. Okay, let me take this back to the practical side because we don't want to hear about just the technical. There is a statistic, and I don't know if you remember, Mariann, we had a guest speaker here in the spring, but she had also done a webinar for us, and her name is Patty Hauser. She holds a VP position at Athene, which is a large insurance company, and she one of the statistics that she gives is women refer almost 3 times more than men. And I bring this up because I think about when I want a new product or I'm looking for something, one of the first things that I do is to go text my group of girlfriends and I say, who do you know? What are you using? What hair product? Whatever it might be. That is so common for how people find professionals in their lives, whether it's getting the garage redone, the roof redone, or a hair care product or makeup. And so I think what's important as a business owner or just, kind of general philosophy is follow the golden rule, act or treat others how you want to be treated. And I want to make sure we as an organization have the highest level of service so that our clients will talk about us.
Well, I've had people tell me they've asked for a recommendation from their boss, their dentist, their doctor, somebody who looked successful. And that was, it looked like they were investing well. So you could always ask them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The piece that I have recognized as a small business owner is how important our community is and how important it is to be able to give back to it in any capacity we can. So whether that's, again, using our gifts and our talents to help somebody grow in a financial perspective, or let's make sure that we're doing good things in our community, that we're giving back, that we are volunteering, and that we're being present for the people around us and whatever that might look like.
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears for just a little bit and toss this in, but there's something like 17% of women who feel comfortable about their retirement plan. And that's a very paltry number. And the reason is that only 32% of women have a financial advisor, and that's about half the number of men who have a financial advisor. So women aren't comfortable because they don't have someone guiding them along, providing them information, holding their hands when the market gets a little rough, keeping them in the markets when they should be kept in. And so it is important for women to share this information with their friends, with their community, when they have a good financial advisor, to pass the information along and help their friends become more comfortable with their retirement plan.
I think that's such a good point. I feel like the financial aspect of somebody's world can get technical. And when it gets too technical, people shy away and they don't take action. And so actually just last night I posted something on our social media channels is keep it simple. Keep it at a level that you can understand, but do something to take a step forward and contribute to the longer term goals that you have. And for so many people, it's easier when you're with a professional that this is what their gift is and this is what their expertise is.
Sure. So when you have that appointment with a financial advisor, what kind of information will they be asking?
Great question. So it's going to look a little bit different, probably the structure of it, but based on who you're meeting with. But in a very basic terms, the goal would be, let's figure out if we even like each other. Are we compatible? Can we sit here for an hour or 2 hours and have a conversation and actually have some good relationship banter going on? So I think that's probably the first thing for both sides of the party is this an easy relationship for us to engage in? From there, back to the technical side of things, we, want to make sure that we understand somebody's risk tolerance. And that's something that's actually required, that we have to have that understanding of how much risk do they want in their life. And that's somewhat based off of a number, but also their preferences along the way. Things like statements for like their brokerage accounts, annuities, life insurance, other investments, any of that, we're going to want to collect statements. And then any information about expenses, debt, kind of the day-to-day workings of our life. And then we take we really want to make sure we're looking at it from a holistic perspective, because every decision that you make financially also has an impact on your taxes. And so we always ask for tax returns as well. And then anything else that somebody wants to share with us, they think is relevant to the conversation and to their financial picture.
Okay. So the financial advisor can do a better job for you if they have all the information, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something that we have often been conditioned to not talk about your finances. And that was maybe an older generation, and I don't know that that's the case necessarily today. And some of that is there's laws around you can share your salary and things like that. The world has changed, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But so many people find it taboo to talk about money. So walking into a financial professional's office to talk about every aspect of their finances can be intimidating. Mm-hmm. But we can't move forward and give you a good analysis of where you're at and what it looks like to, again, what's the ending look like and how do we move backwards from that if we don't know what we're dealing with and all the pieces to that puzzle.
Yeah, I've seen so many cases where people give their financial advisor half their money or 2/3 of their money, but they withhold a large chunk. And as you say, that can make a big difference in their tax situation. And, maybe they're thinking that they'll just tuck that money under the mattress or something when, in fact, they could be missing out on financial performance. So let's talk a bit about that fee-based versus a commission type of financial advisor.
Yeah, there's layers to all of this, and that's I didn't say this when we were talking about those columns and the different things of insurance agent, broker versus investment advisor, representative. We actually hold licensure to do all three things. And the philosophy of my husband, Jeff, and kind of how he's built the organization is he feels that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, that products are designed to fit specific situations. And the key to this is, while a lot of our business is built on that fee-based model, if he is truly wearing his CFP hat and acting as a fiduciary and working in the best interest of that client, we need to have available the products that are out there in the universe to work with. And so there are going to be times that a commission-based product might be the right situation for the person in front of us. That might mean a life insurance situation or an annuity. And other times, maybe we're talking to a younger person that it's a 529 plan, which you have a different license to do that. And so it's important to make sure that we're not going down a path of pigeonholing one thing. But in general, we start with a fee-based planning model as how we have our organization structured.
Okay. And then let's talk about a plan versus ongoing management.
Yeah, this is actually an ongoing conversation in our office as well. So in an ideal world, we were talking a moment ago about how many advisors people might have, and sometimes people want to spread it out because they're more comfortable and they think they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. If that is a philosophy of our clients, it's sometimes hard to break. But in general, we want to be able to have our eyes on all of the pieces. And you had mentioned the tax risk that could go along with not doing that. But it's hard to be able to make sure you are maximizing the situation and having a really efficient outcome if you don't get to play with all the pieces. And so I think my point of that is we are ideally managing all of somebody's retirement assets. However, there are going to be situations that people really enjoy doing this themselves. Let me take a couple of examples for you. People retire, and what are they going to do and how are they going to spend their time? Well, if the financial side of things are really important to them and they enjoy it and it's not something that they got to do in their professional life, guess what they want to do? They want to spend more time on that. And so for us to say as a professional, no, we got it, it doesn't necessarily work like that. But guess what? They don't know all of the pieces. they might be a little more uncomfortable on some of the tax implications or knowing the right time to do, say, a Roth conversion and all the benefits of that. And so what we can do and offer them is more of a consultation, advice relationship where we charge them a flat fee. Okay. They still get to have their hands in it, but we're working together to tackle certain projects and tasks in say a 12-month period. Okay. So we actually think there's a benefit to both situations if it's right for the situation.
Okay. And Nikki, in your prior career, you spent years working with hundreds, maybe thousands of financial advisors across the country.
Yeah. We've had thousands. A lot of fun doing it.
Well, what's your take on that one-person office versus a team office?
I feel like I'm being wishy-washy on some of these questions because I do see it from a broader perspective. And I'm going to bring up that quote that I've said a few times, beginning with the end in mind. Where do you want it all to end? And so if you go with a multiple person office, you are in a situation where you are going to have a higher level of expenses because you're paying for people and processes and technology, and it gets complicated, right? And so you are going to be spending at a greater level, and you have to be producing at a greater. You'll ultimately be producing at a greater level as well, and you have succession in place, which is really important to the end consumer. You have depth that if you're on vacation, there's somebody else that can serve you. Right. And so you have this rich environment that's really good for the consumer. In contrast, though, somebody might want to keep it simple. They might not be good at managing people. It might be overwhelming to have an environment like that. And so they make a choice where they've decided that it's them and their wife, and that's the best way that they can service and support their clients. Mm-hmm. And the kind of the pros and cons for that professional is their expenses aren't high, so ultimately they're maybe able to retire earlier, pass it on in a different succession way. Mm-hmm. So I know that my answer there was kind of almost looking at it from a couple different sides of the ball, from both a consumer perspective and from a business owner perspective. And so I think it's important for the end consumer to understand how, what the ultimate goal is for that advisor and the level of service that they have related to the model that's right there in front of them.
Okay. Well, just speaking of succession, my dad's 103 years old now.
It's incredible.
He's still got accounts at different financial advisors. We've helped him consolidate that, but I think he's down to 3. And he has outlived a couple of those advisors, so he's dealing with the successors at each of those places. It's more and more common that people are living to 100 or more, so you might want to take all that into consideration when you're choosing that financial advisor.
I have something real quick, Mariann. We just read a study from Allianz, which is a big insurance company here actually in the Twin Cities. And their study was, we are living longer. Mm-hmm. And so what do people want to do with that time? And 49% of respondents said they wanted to do something big and bold and to live life. And so I thought that was kind of fun to hear.
Definitely. So again, when you have an advisor, do they just manage your stock and bond portfolio, or is there other things going on? I assume, especially with a CFP, you have to keep updating yourself as to what's going on new in the world of investments.
Yeah, so great question. As a CFP, Jeff's perspective is on the financial plan side of things. And so when you talk about a financial plan, it doesn't limit yourself just to the investment management side of things or the stocks and bonds and that side. He really has created an environment within our organization, no matter what advisor that you're working with within our team, is let's make sure that we look at, first of all, the goals and the fears and the desires for the person and the retirees and pre-retirees we may be working with. Risk management is a key piece that we should look at. Tax preparation. We don't do tax preparation, but the tax planning side of things, income planning, the legacy and the estate planning side of things. Again, we're not offering the legal advice, but again, almost every decision you make is going to tie back either to your taxes or to your estate and what impact that might have. And then health and the long-term care side of things. We don't necessarily mean long-term care insurance, but what is your plan if you live to 103, what do you want that to look like? And so we're bringing all of that into the equation on top of the investment management side of things.
Okay, now let's talk about communications. So after I give my advisor my money to manage, how do I track how I'm doing?
Great question. Technology has become such a key piece of the world that we live in. And even you think about at this point, a lot of people are comfortable with the digital side of things as it relates to banking. But there's new things like cryptocurrency and digital currency that make people uncomfortable. But the reality is technology is a really big piece of the financial world. And so we use a variety of technology to create reports and ongoing, as we meet on at least an annual basis. Sometimes it's more often than that keeps you up to date, and we can look at what your financial world looks like. But we don't want to just reserve that for that one time or 2 times a year that we get together. So all of that is available on our website, and there's a couple different ways. We have a tool called Generational Vault that it's accessible through there. But you want to also make sure that you have access to people that are holding your money, meaning a custodian, names like Charles Schwab as an example. You can have access to that as well. And so that's one of the pieces that we do with our clients. Once they have decided to move forward with us, their initial meeting is we sit down and we get all their technology portals set up with them. Do they get text messages? Do they get their statements in the mail? And we make sure that they understand the technology as a key piece of this relationship and how to use it to their benefit.
Excellent. So you've just talked about, having an annual meeting or a twice a year type of meeting. But what if in the meantime, between meetings, I get all scared by a hairy stock or bond market? Can I reach out anytime and talk to you?
Yeah, great question. We started our conversation today about transition. And when transition is happening, guess what's happening? Crazy, messy, right? And so you want to know that your financial professional, your financial advisor is there. You can get a hold of them, that they are a partner with you. And so we have unlimited. Pick up the phone, call us, stop by, come in. We can absolutely want to make sure that we're your partner as you go through this. We structure it where we want to see you at least once a year. But as you are going through some of this transition, it might make sense for us to meet 2 times or even 3 times a year out of the gates. Once you get a little bit further into retirement or you get through a transition, then oftentimes we find our clients are more comfortable backing it off and maybe moving it to once a year. We do a lot to try to make sure that we're educating along the way. So quarterly webinars, face-to-face educational events. Mariann has been our keynote speaker at those in the past. And so we're doing what we can to make sure that it's not just us telling you what to do, but that we're a partner in this and we're educating you along the way.
Great. So there's many out there who call themselves financial advisors, but it's so important to find the qualified people who have your goals and interests at heart and at the center of your portfolio. That word fiduciary is so critical. Choosing your financial advisor is a decision you want to get right. So take it from this expert, do your research, and compare advisors to find the one qualified to manage your money, one that will listen to your needs and find the right solution that you want to utilize for years to come, and be flexible when conditions change. Nikki, I can't thank you enough for joining me on Thriving with Your Money Tree. How can listeners reach out to you?
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. This has been my treat to be here, and so I appreciate you having me here today. Phone number for Paladin Financial is 651-842-8406. 651-842-8406. You can also reach us at financialpaladin.com. So Paladin is an advocate, a defender, and so that is we're your financial paladin. So financialpaladin.com.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.